بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, everyone, and welcome to this majlis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins of our shuyukh, our parents, our beloved ones, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq so we can benefit from this gathering, or this majlis, learning the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me start with this, 2 points possibly, maybe, or 1 point before we will go back into the ayat and give a chance to maybe some more brothers or sisters will come. Just looking at the weather that we all the time blame and think about generally that the rain delays us, and possibly the reason of maybe some of the brothers, sisters are not here, and also in the school, the children are not there because of the the weather. But this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We became used to see the rain a lot in our country in here because all the time raining. But really, if you think about it from an Islamic perspective, it's a rahmah. And we know that it can be also a niqmah, which is punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sahal bin Sa'ad radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Fintani la yuraddu indahum ad-du'a." 2 occasions that dua will not be rejected. Or another narration said, "Fintani qallama yuraddu fihim ad-du'a." In 2 occasions are very rare that the dua will not be accepted. He mentioned عند النداء, at the time of the adhan of the 5 daily salawat, وعند نزول المطر, at the time of the rain. And because of that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has established that he used to open his cover, his jilbab, and he used to show his right shoulder. And he said, when he was asked by the companions, why you're doing that, he said, إِنَّهُ حَدِيثُ عَهْدٍ بِرَبِّي. It came fresh and new from my Lord up there, and he wants my body to touch the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So really, if we think about, we all the time thinking about when my dua, what shall I do for my dua to be accepted? We asking about specific dua, specific actions we do. And the rain is there since yesterday. It just is a matter for us to raise your hand up and to make a dua, or even without raising the hands, just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins, to have mercy upon us, to allow us to enter the Jannah, to accept us, to be pleased with us. And that is important. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept that. The second point, just to remind everyone that I'm sure that you know that Muharram, if it's not today, the fast will be tomorrow, the fast of Muharram. And I feel it's a duty upon me to remind you, especially you know that the importance of Islamic months, that this month is one of the 4 Muharram months. I'm not going to talk about generally what is in there, because some of these matters are not related to us. Nowadays, you're not going to find a day where qital, fighting, is haram, and other matters are haram. But the more important for you to know what was narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he narrated that Rasulullah said that أفضل الصيام بعد رمضان صيام شهر الله المحرم. The best fast that you Muslim you want to do after the fasting the month of Ramadan is fasting the month of Muharram. And Rasulullah he gave a name to this month. He said Shahrullah. The other months are all the months of Allah, isn't it? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he said, Inna iddat ash-shuhuri inda Allah 12 shahran. The number of the months in the eyes of Allah, since Allah created the samawat wal ard, are 12 months. And minha arba'atul hurum, amongst them are 4 Muharram months. So they are all months of Allah, but this one specifically, Rasulullah said, Shahrullah al-Muharram. And then in the rest of the hadith, afdal salah, nafila is qiyamul layl. But the most important first part of the hadith which is encouraging the Muslims to fast in the month of Muharram, was this month. And later on, inshallah, you're going to hear about the 10th of this month, which is Ashura, is more strongly recommended to fasting because Ashura, and inshallah we'll talk about it at that time. But for those Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the ability, gave them the the health, and they can fast, it will be really strongly recommended. One of the strong recommended times for the Muslim to fast is the month of Shahrullah al-Muharram, which is, as we said, if it's not today, it will be tomorrow. And if you can't fast, or fasting because the days are long and you have a health issue, something like that, you know, the charities are so many there in online, and in this country we have so many charities, and they provide so many services, and one of these services can feed people. So instead of you fast, if you can't fast, at least for the whole month, give that donation of feeding a fasting person somewhere in this world who a person wants to fast to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give them food, lunch, dinner, well, something, some provision for the whole month, for 30 days. At least will replace, as if you're making, when the person cannot fast in Ramadan for health reason, you give a fidya. I'm just trying to give you a solution for the one who cannot fast. Making a solution for that. So you cannot fast because of health issue, because the day is long and this. Imagine that you are Ramadan, you can't fast, you're giving a fidya. And the fidya is to feed a person. Get one of these charities in the subcontinent, in Africa, anywhere in this world, and pay for feeding 30 miskin, and better if there are children or whoever in there available, give them the food for 30 days and will be at least as if you're trying, oh Allah, I'm trying my best. I can't fast because of A, B, C. Allah knows about your situation, but I'm doing something that I can do. May Allah accept from all of you. Okay, now let's go to the lesson now. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Last week we started the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَتَفَقَّدَ الطَّيْرَ فَقَالَ مَا لِيَ لَا أَرَى الْهُدْهُدَ أَمْ كَانَ مِنَ الْغَائِبِينَ. We learned the duty of the leader, how should the leaders, they should check upon their people, and we talked about the ayah, the words of the ayah. لَوْعَذِّمَنَّهُ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا أَوْ لَأَذْبَحَنَّهُ أَوْ لَيَأْتِيَنِّ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. We talked about the reaction of Sulaiman alayhi salam and what he decided to do to Al-Hudhud. Okay, so then I think briefly we talked about أَحَطُّ بِمَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ. So start the ayah from the beginning, which is ayah 22. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this surah, Surah Al-Naml, the Makki surah, Allah said, فَمَكَثَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ فَقَالَ أَحَطُّ بِمَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ وَجِئْتُكَ مِنْ سَبَإٍ بِنَبَإٍ يَقِينٍ. So, فَمَكَثَ يَمْكُث. Makatha means he remained, he stayed. You are now makatha fi dars. You are staying, you are remaining, you're staying for 1 hour, 45 minutes in the lesson. فَمَكَثَ, he remained, he stayed. Who is he? The doer of this action is not mentioned. And whatever you read in Tafseer, it's an ijtihad, it's an effort of the Mufassirin. Some of them said, فَمَكَثَ الْهُدْهُدْ. The bird, he remained غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. I'll come to that. And the other view says, فَمَكَثَ سُلَيْمَانَ. The doer of this action is not mentioned by Allah. It can be Al-Hudhud, which is the bird, and can be Sulaiman. Either ones, both meanings are valid and acceptable in the view of the scholars. And you might read in the books or a translation, and that's why it comes now in the difference in the reading from the translation and reading from the tafsir. In translation, maybe someone, a translator, he believes that فَمَكَثَ is al-hudhud. He will translate for you in the whatever the language that used in there is the al-hudhud, the bird remained not for long and then said. But in reality, it can be Al-Hudhud and can be also Sulaiman himself. فَمَكَثَ, he remained, Sulaiman or Al-Hudhud. غَيْرَ بَعِيد means غَيْرَ طويل is not for long. He did not remain for long when قال أحط بما لم تحط به. So Sulaiman did not stay for long when the bird said to him, came and said to him, أحط بما لم تحط به. Or the Al-Hudhud did not remain for long. For long what? Because he went away. He's absent. You remember from the story from last week? So Al-Hudhud was not present at the time when Sulaiman was checking upon his army, his people. فَمَكَثَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. Either Sulaiman did not stay for long when the Hudhud returned and said the statement, or Al-Hudhud himself did not remain for long when he returned and stayed to him the following statement. So this is important, just to highlight the importance of reading from a tafsir, not reading a translation. Translation, you are restricted with the understanding of the person who translated that, the meaning of that. So really you are submitting your understanding of the words of Allah to that person, whoever that the person that translated the book. But when you read it from the tafsir, you're giving you all the views of the ulama and studying that. And so you know there is more than one meaning in there, and possibly this, possibly that. Sometimes the meaning, both of them can be applicable. It can be, and we don't have a decision or tarjih saying this is the right opinion. And sometimes we have to make that decision about the right opinion in the views of the ulama. So the Al-Hudhud said, أَحَطُّ بِمَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ. That was the main statement for Al-Hudhud to say, to get away from the punishment of Sulaiman. He gave his excuse and he showed to him that I have ilm more than the ilm that you have it. Ahatta from ahata yuhitu. Al-ihata means having knowledge of a great, a big thing that the others don't have it. That's al-ihata. And that's why we have one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-muhit. Muhit is the one have an ihata, a big, a huge, a great knowledge of something. And he said, ahattu, so I have great knowledge, bima lam tuhit bi, of something that you don't have knowledge about it. And as you know, Sulaiman, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him as a miracle, as a support, the jinn and al-ins, and all of that to show that he had the ilm. And he thought that he was the king of the world, and he thought that he had the ilm of everything. Similar to the story of Musa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Kahf, when he thought that he was the most knowledgeable person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as he teaches us, the normal people, Allah teaches also the Anbiya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we get disciplines, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disciplines the Anbiya as well, and giving them the idea and give them how to look into things in a different way. So Musa alayhi salam was giving a lesson by having someone who's had more knowledge than him, and that's Al-Khidr. And we have here Sulaiman, a bird, a small bird that he had ilm more than the Sulaiman who used to own the world, and he used to have the jinn, al-afarit, al-shayateen, al-ins, and he did not know about that empire of Saba. And that's a great thing. So we learned the lesson about this last week, so I'm not going to repeat that. It's all the time teaches us the humbleness, and whatever that, when you feel that you learned something, you have ilm about something. I'm not talking about Sharia, I'm talking about your own field as well. So you feel that sometimes if you are, whatever the field that you are in, I'm not going to mention a name, but whatever the field that you are in, and you feel that you're an expert person, you know everything, go leave it with me, I know everything, and this and that, you might get stuck and you don't know that. In the same as we did explain to you last week, the story of Abu Hassan al-Mawardi, who thought that the ilm of selling and buying and divorce and nikah and all the laws of the fiqh, he knows everything about it. When you see to his book, 22 volumes within an encyclopedia in fiqh, and you say this person, he had so great ilm. He was the judge of the judges of the Abbasi Empire at that time, and he was in front of two people, he could not answer a question. To discipline that place, because he was at the back of his mind thought that I have the ilm and no one can stand and can compete with me, can be better than me, I know everything. This is where the lesson comes. And by the way, I'm not saying that myself, he said it himself. I'm not explaining that about the incident. Himself explained about his situation, his own situation in his book, a beautiful book called Adabuddin wa Dunya. The manners, the manners of the deen and the dunya. A beautiful book. And he used himself as an example. Don't do the same mistake as I did before. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And then he said, Al-Hudhud wajituka min saba'in binaba'in yaqeen. I came to you, I'm returning to you from Saba. Saba, as if, because you see the word in Saba'in. There is a linguistic or grammar rules to do with the word Saba. I'm not going to confuse you with that. But Saba, it was said, is the name of the city or the town, and it was said is the name of the person. There is a poor opinion said by the Mufassiris, the name of a female, but the right opinion, Saba, is the name of a male. And he's a descendant of Qahtan, and Qahtan goes back, really is one of the lineages of the Arab. As you know, the Arab, the scholars have divided them to three: Al-Arab, Al-Ba'ida, the vanished Arab, that's long time ago, Ad and Thamud. You don't see anyone nowadays will refer himself or herself into I am from Ad, I am from Thamud. No one will say that. And the second type of the Arab, we call them Al-Arab Al-Arida, the pure Arab, and that is Qahtan. And from Qahtan we have lineages from there. Mainly the Yemenis, when they refer to themselves, they say I am Himyari or Kahlani. So Himyar and Kahlan are the main two sons. And from Himyar, all the kings of Yemen came from that family, from that lineage. Kahlan did not take the power, but Himyar, he took the power, and the kings of the Yemen from long time, they were all from that lineage of Himyar and goes back to, as I said, Qahtan. So Saba is one of their children from Himyar's side, and he was there is a long story about it, as we see now about this lady, the Inni Wajadtu Ma'atan. Saba, they mention, and this is nothing to do in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallam, and not in the Quran, this is in the history. They said that he had no children, and he wants to have children. So he was a very powerful king, had so many things, everything that he had there. He said that no one amongst you, families, is a kufu, equivalent and equal to me. And you know, in the marriage, you marry to someone who is a kufu. And the fuqaha is agreed between Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, that all the time they talk about al-kafa'a. Al-kafa'a being equal to the person. They looked from different perspectives. It can be from the money, it can be from the knowledge, can be from other things as well. But they consider it. It's not a condition that will invalidate the marriage, but they consider that. So going from our rules, us as Muslims, going back into Saba, he said, no one here from the families of the whole empire, there is a family there that will be a kufu to me to marry their daughter. So he stayed without marriage. Would we do that in our life? We don't do that. In fiqh, well, you don't have a kufu, which is the right equal to you, you go down. And also kafa'a, it's something recommended. As long as both sides are agreed, someone very, very rich and someone very, very poor, they agreed, they want to marry each other, fine, no problem with that. But there is no kafa'a. Someone from far east and someone from far west. And in culture, they don't meet. They don't have the same food, they don't have the same traditions, but both of them are Muslims. If they get married, there is a possibility that that marriage will be broken. But at the end, if they agreed, we have to bless that marriage. Islamically is allowed, but we have to give them advice that, look, you're not really same, so you might get problems, misunderstanding, and this and that. So you might end by broken the marriage. But they agreed then that the marriage is fine. So al-kafa'a is something, al-kafa'a is just looking into that you're equals, that is all the time recommended to look at it. From all the madhab, by the way, it's not just one madhab. Okay, so this Saba, he said that, and what he did, he married to a jinn, female, jinniya. So if there is no equal in the bashar, the human, the sons of Adam, will you marry a jinniya? I don't know if that is correct and right, but that's what they mentioned, the historians. And they said Bilqis is from a descendant of the mother who was a jinniya and the father was a human, a normal sons of Adam. That's what they say, and these are more likely maybe the stories has some asl, but they add so many things in these stories, and there is no really a sunnah from Rasulullah about that. Um, so وَجِئْتُكَ مِنْ سَبَإٍ بِنَبَإٍ يَقِينٍ. Saba is a very powerful and rich civilization, if I may call it, or empire was at the time. He said, I came to you originally from Saba, بِنَبَإٍ يَقِينٍ. Naba is in use and yaqeen is definite and solid and authentic and certain. So I return to you with authentic and correct news from Saba, the city or the person. And what are the news? Now he's going to start saying that. So before we go into that, Al-Hudhud, he saved his life by saying this because he gave the excuse. And Sulaiman, he made a condition unless he brings an excuse. Otherwise, I will لأعذبنه عذابا شديدا أو لأذبحنه أو لا يأتيني بسلطان مبين. So either two punishment or he will bring the excuse for his absence. And he brought the excuse. So he said, إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم وأوتيت من كل شيء ولها عرش عظيم. He mentioned three things in this ayah. I found Saba, they are ruled by a lady, imra'ah, tamlikuhum, owns them. She was their queen. Second thing, he said, utiyat min kulli shay. She was giving everything. Utiyat min kulli shay. She was giving everything. The third thing, he said, walaha arshun azim. She had a very big and very great arsh. We also have the other ayahs that mention extra information about the news that he brought to Sulaiman. But let's talk about the first ayah. إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً تَمْلِكُهُمْ. Why did he mention that to Sulaiman? Why he did not say just, I found a kingdom there. They have everything. They're very rich kingdom in there. And they have a very big arsh, throne of the ruler is very, very great and big. But because was something strange, possibly Al-Hudhud not used to it, he mentioned it to him. And what is it? That having a female leading them, a female was ruling them. Inni wajadtu ma'atan tamlikuhum. So the ruler, the queen of Saba was a female. And that's, as we said earlier, was famously mentioned between the scholars in history. And we have ahadith, some of these ahadiths are weak, says Bilqis. But her name is Bilqis bin Sharahil. And she goes back into the nasab, to the lineage of Qahtan, as you know. Because there are some other stories that say that Bilqis, she became a Muslim, as we're going to learn that later in the ayat. And whether she got married to Sulaiman or not, also we're going to learn that later on in the ayat. So, إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً تَمْلِكُهُمْ. This ayah, brothers and sisters, although the ayah is a Makkiyah, was revealed in Mecca. I did mention to you in the beginning of when we started our classes in here, the Makki verse is very rare to find a ruling, Islamic ruling in the Makki verses. Means of haram and halal and this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. You find that mainly in the Madani, the surah that were revealed in Medina. However, that is not all the time. There are some ayat from the Quran which was revealed in Mecca. The ulama, they tried to take understood from the ayat some ahkam. So they look into this ayah, إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً تَمْلِكُهُ. They were ruled by a lady, which means that we are allowed to be ruled, our ruler, to be a female, Islamically. And there is an issue, I'm not going to go in details, just mention you very brief about this issue. In the foundation of Islamic fiqh, is it allowed for us to rely on the Sharia of the nations before us, or we are not allowed to rely on that? So the ulama, they differ. Meaning here, we have the Sharia of Musa, we have the Sharia of Isa, we have the Sharia before us, we have also Yusuf alayhi salam mentioned in the whole long surah, and there are some actions that Yusuf did, the ahkam that we learn from those anbiya in with their people. Are we allowed, Muslims, to use these rulings in Islam? So which means the principle says in Usul al-Fiqh, the Sharia of the nation before us, is it a Sharia for us or not? The right opinion, what I believe personally, is not. But the issue, there is an ikhtilaf about it between the ulama. So this is just, I would like you to know about this. Because of that, they use this ayah, although it talks about Sulaiman, it talks about a nation before Islam long time ago. They said, well, if Bilqis was a queen of a whole empire and give them success, and what is success will come later on. The very wise and correct lady, she took the whole people and accepted Islam and became under the ruling of Sulaiman alayhi salam. She was wise. If she was not wise, she can deny the prophecy of Sulaiman. She can go and fight Sulaiman. It was said she's got 12 big numbers of thousands of armies, and each ruler or commander has got 100,000s of soldiers under him. They mention big numbers about her army. But yet this lady, she was wise and she accepted the da'wah of Sulaiman and she became Muslim. So they looked into this and they said, we will, this is an evidence for us to accept and to allow the kingship or the ruling of a female upon the whole ummah, where included there a male. The other scholars, or the view of Jumhur al-Ulama, I'm saying this is because used by late contemporary researchers, contemporary people who live mainly in the West, to allow and talk about how nowadays in the democracy system where there is voting and all of that, sometimes you find the leader of the party will be a female. I'm not talking about in the Western countries, even Muslim countries, and we are allowed to be ruled by a female person. This was debated because of a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Listen to this story. Abu Bakr, he accepted Islam in year 9 in the battle of Ta'if. They called Abu Bakr is Nafi' bin Hurayth. He was thrown with the Bakr. Bakr is the rolling rope when you are in the higher place. You know the builders, they use it when you have a rope and you have like, what do you call it? Huh? Yeah, to put a rope in here and put another side. So when you're pulling something, it's easy to do that. He was thrown with this and they call it Abu Bakr. We call it in Arabic is Bakr. And because since that time he became Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhum. He narrated a story later on, although he accepted Islam in year 9, but wasn't the companions, except he is very well-known companions among the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the year of or the battle of Al-Jamal, I'm not going to go in details because some of this maybe you don't know. The year of the battle between Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha with her Talha ibn Ubaidillah and the other Zubayr ibn al-Awwam and others, when they went to Al-Basra and Iraq to get the blood of those who killed Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, asking for their rights. In the other side, there is Ali ibn Abi Talib and those who are supporting him. And Ali ibn Abi Talib at the time, he was the Khalifa. As you know, he was giving the Khilafah, was giving the bay'ah to him. But the other companions, they're asking for their right. They went into Al-Basra. Make the story short, as I said, there is a battle happening there. They call it the Battle of Al-Jamal. Al-Jamal is the camel of Aisha. Aisha was the leader of that team. And they brought Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha with them to get the people accepting that Aisha, she is the wife of Rasulullah, the most beloved wife of Rasulullah. So people, they will come to her and they will have more acceptance, basically, if I may say that. But anyway, this is a khilaf between the Sahaba, and the details about that we can talk about another time. The reason of all of this to mention the story of Abu Bakr. He said, I learned something, words that heard them from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, if it was not these words that I learned them from Rasulullah, I would be with Aisha on the day of Al-Jamal. The day of Al-Jamal is the battle of Al-Jamal. What is the words that he learned them? He said, one day Rasulullah ﷺ received a message. He was informed about news, came all the way from Faris. Faris is the Persian Empire. He was told Rasulullah that the Khosrow, the ruler of Al-Furs, died, and the Persian people, they elected or they selected his daughter to be their ruler. But Rasulullah heard that news. He reacted by saying the following statement. He said, لن يفلح, and one narration, لا يفلح قوم ولو أمرهم امرأة. People made a lady to rule them, they will not get a success. Can you hear the statement now? That was said by Rasulullah. Abu Bakr said, these words made me to think and ponder on that, and he went into the army of Ali ibn Abi Talib instead of being in the army of Aisha. Although Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, you know the states of Aisha. But he, because they made Aisha as the ruler in there, he chose to be in the other side, not in this side. So this hadith used by Jumhur al-Ulama, all the ulama agreed that al-Imam al-Kubra means the having a ruler for all the Muslims to rule all the Muslims. They call al-Imam al-Kubra, means being the main ruler for the whole Muslims of the country. Agreed between all the schools, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, that is not allowed for a female to be in that position. I'm not going to make the justification or the explanation for that, but agreed on that. Secondly, also they agreed that the imamah of the salah is not for the female with the males. So when they are mixed, only for the males to have that imamah of the salawat. So imamat al-salah in Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Ahlul Hadith, all of them agreed it's not for the female. Female amongst themselves, they can have a female leader if they want to do that. It's permissible. What is left? One thing. Al-Qadha. Al-Qadha means being a qadi, being a judge, to rule between the indisputing issues in masail matters. Imam Abu Hanifa, he is the only one who made one excuse, or one he permitted for a qadi to be a female in one situation, and that is al-amwal, in wealth. So a female can be a judge to judge and to deal in issues to do with wealth only, not al-qasas and al-hudud. You know, qasas is the rights of the human towards each other. You cut my finger, I want to cut your finger. You did this, you did that. So these are the qasas. Al-sinnu bil-sinnu wal-aynu bil-ayn. Al-hudud is the rules of Allah. You committed a sin with zahad, to you steal, you cut your hand, or you committed this, you committed that. So there's hudud al-qasas. He said, this is not for the female. As the female judge, I'm allowed to be only in wealth, in al-amwal only. However, the Jumhur al-Ulama against a view of Imam Abu Hanifa. To give you more, I would like you to be aware of that, not to, and we're having the females in here with us as well, they'll say, oh, what we have, look, scholars, they allow this. Imam Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari, one of the greatest mufassirin. Well, if you talk about tafsir, you have to mention Imam al-Tabari. In Ahlus Sunnah, the greatest mufassir, the first book comes in Islam is the tafsir of Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. You can't, Ibn Kathir's book that he relied on Ibn Jarir. This actually is a summarized book from, a copy from the tafsir of Ibn Jarir. Ibn Jarir, he said, it is allowed for the female to be a judge in all the matters. Not just as Imam Abu Hanifa said, in everything. So allowed for the female to be a judge. Similar to that was said by Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, who is one of the greatest students of Imam Abu Hanifa. But as I said, Jumhur al-Ulama was against that. And what is the main evidence for, or what are the evidence for Jumhur al-Ulama? They started with this. As I'm a Hanbali, I'm going to start with you straight away. As us, the Hanabila said, Ibn Qudama said, he said, basically look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never made a female to take the responsibility of that. And although amongst them were great female companions, great Sahaba, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Salama, and all of that, Rasulullah never gave a duty to a female more than what we know, the other duties. As in qada. We have the Khilafah of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. We have the Khilafah of Umar ibn Khattab, which is, okay, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Khilafah's time was very busy with Ahlul Ridda by doing the Quran. It was a very short time. Maybe there is no time for him to look into that. Umar ibn Khattab was a long period. And the Ummah, the Islam was flourished during the time of Umar ibn Khattab. Umar ibn Khattab, he never selected a female to be a judge. Some of the contemporary researchers, they used a story that Umar ibn Khattab, he selected a shifa, a lady, he made her, al-hisba. Al-hisba, it means like a policing in the market, looking into what is going wrong and what's going right outside in the roads and telling them, make amr ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, telling them, do this, do that. He made a female, but the story is not authentic. The story is not authentic. So if you're going to use that in a hukm shari, in Islamic ruling, you have to have authentic narrations. But other than that, there is nothing that by Umar Khattab, he selected a female to be a judge. Although at the time we have Aisha, we have Salama. You remember that. We have a great, I'm using Aisha and Salama only because that's the only view in the Hanafi school, accepting the mothers of the believers as a faqih, as someone who's a jurist. The same, we accept the narration of Aisha and Salama, but we don't accept the narrations of Zainab, Safiya, and the others of the mothers of the believers. So that's why I'm repeating the word Salama and Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. So this is the basic evidence that used by Ibn Qudama. Look into the life of the Muslims. There's nothing happening in that. And you talking about this ayat is not to talk about our Sharia. This is the nations before us. Allah is quoting that to us, but doesn't mean that it's halal for us to use that. And we have, secondly, the strongest thing is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith Abu Bakr, لا يفلح قوم, and one narration, لن يفلح قوم ولو أمرهم امرأة, that people that made a female to be their leader will not get the success. Talking about al-imama al-kubra, as we said. There is something that also would like to listen to know it. It's good to know it. One of the contemporary researchers and let's say scholars said the hadith of Abu Bakr, the evidence that we mentioned, he said it is not hadith said by Rasulullah to give an Islamic ruling. He said it to talk about that incident specifically, not more than that. Do you understand me, what I'm saying? So when the statement he said it, he's referring to that incident of the Persian Empire when they made a female, and Rasulullah is aware of their situations. They were in a very bad conditions and all of that, and they made a female to rule them. They put themselves in a even more worse situation. And was not said by Rasulullah as a ruling. For him to say that, for those scholars, and they make all this effort to allow the females to be in high positions to rule the males and to do the situation that, as we talking about it earlier, he said this saying, I don't know any faqih, any scholars from the early scholars in Hanafi school who allowed the females to do that. They used what he said. This is something was said now, and from people who are looking into ayat and ahadith, in a way they want to twist and they want to use something, it suits and manages what they want to say, what want to present and promote to the community. I'm not against for the female to take responsibilities. Of course, the greatest responsibility for the female is to look after her house. And imagine the generation comes, if the generation is looked after by their mothers, after the father goes out and making all the work, that's a great thing. But when we neglect our children and we bring the mates and we rely on schools, we rely on this and that, and that's what we end by having children who are not, they don't know about their Islam, and we rely on other people to teach them Islam. And I'm not against for the females to take these responsibilities. The scholars who, Jumhur ulama, they said there are three situations for the female. A situation talking about not the imama, to being a ruler of the Muslims, head of a party, and to rule the Muslims, like in some countries. That is, I'm quoting here, I'm not saying my opinion, quoting. All the ulama agreed on that. It's not allowed. Imamatul Salah is not allowed. Talking about the Qadha and talking about other duties, when, let's say, a female to be a head teacher of a school. Let's say a female to be a head of department in particular place, that where there is male and females. That's one situation. It can be only female and can be all male. When there are all males in there, those scholars say it is not allowed, because how she's going to deal with a department, all of them are males, and she's the only female in there. It doesn't make sense. At least the minimum of that is out of ghira, out of haya, out of that. The situation when there are all females, with no doubt she's allowed to have that leadership. And the third situation where there are mix between male and females, possibly it's allowed, but with conditions, and she needs to observe these conditions. This is generally summarized the fiqh issue which is related to this ayah. As the ulama you'll find in the books of fiqh and even some books that they talk about the responsibility of females, they will refer to this ayah. And as we said, the sharia of nations before us is not our sharia. We have our sharia revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The halal and haram is all in the Quran. Why we need to rely on what happened to the nations before us? Yes, she was a wise lady. We learn from that. And that is the lesson for the females. You need to be wise. You need to be someone who is looking to things in a deep way. Don't look into, I'm going to lose my power. I'm losing my power if I go under Sulaiman except Islam. I lose all my, ruling and having that all the blessings that I had. She looked into her people. I need to bring my people into the khair. Well, and this is a right, Islam, the religion, the tawheed that Sulaiman was calling me to. She accepted that and she saved her ummah from being vanished and attacked by Sulaiman's army, because Sulaiman announced the jihad. If you don't, come to me and then I will come to you. And that's what he said in here in the following ayah. So, إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً تَمْلِكُهُمْ وَأُوتِيَتْ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Then he said, وَأُوتِيَتْ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, was giving everything. Everything, if we say that Sulaiman previously, in the previous ayat, he said, was giving everything. So if Sulaiman was giving everything, and here, with this Balqis, she was giving everything. The ulama of Tafseer said, she was giving everything that in her empire, in her area, excluding an-nubuwwah, the prophecy. She was giving the mata' dunya, everything to do with the luxury of this dunya, but not an-nubuwwah, not the prophecy. وَلَهَا عَرْشٌ عَظِيمٌ, and she has a great, great arsh. Al-arsh is the throne where the person, the ruler, sits. It was described that the length, the width, and the deep, all of that as 8 dhira. Dhira is the length of this 8 times. It was very big. The Tabi'in also describe it in different way. The description of Ibn Abbas. All of this is not relied on a narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's all the narration of Bani Israel, and it can be accepted. What Allah described is al-azim. Azim is great and big, huge. And to say this word, it means the hudhud, when he looked at it, he really saw that it's so big. It was made of gold and very expensive materials, and made everyone, when to look at it, they look into something great. وَجَدْتُهَا وَقَوْمُهَا يسجدون للشمس من دون الله وزين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم فصدهم عن السبيل فهم لا يهتدون. We came to the 10:30, and I know that I spend most of the time talking about إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم, but really all the books of Tafseer, they talk about this. I have to follow the style of the Mufassirin, and it's important for you to know that although it's a Makki surah, but there is a hukum and a Shari'i and Islamic rulings in this ayah. And mainly, as I said, the contemporary scholars, they use this ayah all the time. Inshallah, we'll continue with the rest of the ayat next week. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us in being in this majlis and make our mizan yawm al-qiyamah heavy with these rewards. And that's all what I have for today. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. Allah knows best.